Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of High and Empowered. I am incredibly excited. I'm always excited, but I'm so excited because today, now, really quickly, I'm Oran, and over here is Julia. Julia, fantastic.
Nice to see everybody.
We're gonna be getting into Julia. We're gonna be talking about the journey of Julia, and that's one of the. I call it not a program. I call it an outreach. I call it a frequency vibe reaching out. And that's what we're doing from this show. We are reaching out to you. We are reaching out to everyone. And in that, we're sending our frequency, we're sending our vibe, our love to you in empowerment, in camaraderie, enjoyment, life, in the highness that it all brings. So today, I'm telling you, I'm super excited because today we are sitting with Dualistic Unity with Ray and Andrew. Guys,
how is it going, Oran and Julia? It's really nice to be here. I'm fucking pumped for this episode because this is the first of what I'm going to consider to be an inspiring series, just because I love chatting with Oran and Julia. Every time I've chatted with you, I've been inspired by your willingness to grow and question and dive into things, including being involved with Dualistic Unity. And so I'm pumped for this episode and the series as a whole. I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who's listening right now. If you're from the Dualistic Unity community, thanks for coming over and checking out this fucking new project with us. If you're not from the community, welcome to the community because this is very much a part of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fucking excited to be here and very, very excited for this series and segment and to see, because I know, Oran, you got so much of an understanding of cannabis and everything, the ins and the outs. And Julia, I know you're curious as fuck, similar to me. I resonate with you a lot, and I respect the fuck out of you just jumping in. It's like Julia is a brand new intern for us at Dualistic Unity, and first week on the job, we're like, how'd you like to jump into hosting a podcast? Whether or not this is what you signed up for, you're like, I thought I was going to be doing some data entry or something. It's like, yeah, here we are, ready to jump in and grow and learn. So I'm fucking excited for where this series is going to go.
Oh yeah, well, no, look, that's this. Look, it's your journey. You know, I want you to introduce yourself, tell everybody about you, but at the same time, how we're taking a journey of empowerment, of power. Really, it's power. I want her to find the inner, lioness, and it comes out in vibe. It comes out in who you are, in confidence and love of yourself, and not looking at the people, and instead just being able to look past them and know that you love yourself and that you are powerful and capable of anything.
But yeah, it's definitely been the first week of the internship was thrown right into the live, and you brought up that idea, Oran, and I was loving it. I feel like I'll have a lot to learn from you for sure, because you seem to be very well established in the cannabis industry. You've got lots of knowledge, and it'll be really cool just to hear all of the knowledge you've established over the years, because I know you have heard a lot of different things and a lot that I don't know. So really excited.
Oh yeah, no, it's going to be a good mix for sure. Because I know when I first started doing the Dualistic Unity podcast with Andrew, there's a sizable gap in our experiences in terms of how we've lived our lives and what we've done, and frankly, the amount of drugs that we've brought into our own body over time. And so a lot of it has been, I guess, exploring that gap, being willing to see each other's perspective. Being like, for me, it's being willing to remember that there's nothing wrong with not having experience in these realms. It's totally fucking normal to not have experience in these realms, and that you shouldn't rush through experiences in these realms by any means, because you could easily meet somebody who's got lots of experience who's like, yeah, just smoke as much as you can, and you're like, you're a prick. That's not helping anything. So it's fun to have somebody that you can go back and forth with. They can be your sounding board, you can be their sounding board. This was part of my growth very early on in my journey as a whole. And what I love about this, and as Oran was saying, like, don't look at the people. You can't actually see the people. That's the best part about doing this here, is that after a certain amount of time, you just start to think of it as having a Zoom call. You just start to think of it as chatting with friends, which is really all it should be. That's all it should be. And so after a while, you start to go, oh, right, all that hesitation is just me. it's just my hesitation. Like, there doesn't have to be anything huge about this. I don't have to be thinking to myself like, oh God, what are people thinking about what I'm saying? That's up to them. You know, the point is just show up, be you, and let whatever happens happen. And I love the fact that, and again, you know, Julia, I met you through the podcast. So you were a part of this conversation. I think that was our first one-on-one chat, was about, you know, how the conversation resonated with you and how you were applying some of these things in your life. So it's awesome to see just that transition from having that conversation to being here.
Yeah, definitely. It really started out in that way. I learned a lot from the podcast. Ray and Andrew talk a lot about questioning and just the things that we hold on to, the certainties that we rely upon. It does really contribute to a lot of the suffering that we go through. So listening to the podcast has really helped me to overcome certain aspects of that suffering, because it all really comes down to how we view ourselves and how we think about other people. It's usually when we are thinking about other people, we also think about it and how it relates to the idea of ourselves. So just kind of breaking that down and understanding we don't really have to put so much of an emphasis on the separation that we all feel, because we are really all connected at the end of the day.
Hell yeah. Well said. Yeah. And then it's just about jumping in to situations. And it's really, I've gained an appreciation more recently for the discomfort, for when I'm feeling like I'm a little bit less comfortable. And it's usually just indicative of doing something new or seeing something in a different way, or a shift in myself, you know, peeling back a layer that I wasn't sure that I could jump into. And so I've gained more and more of an appreciation for when I'm feeling uncomfortable, just because I know that that's when I'm growing and shifting and changing. And a lot of the times it was my fight of that discomfort that, you know, caused the tension, caused the rigidity. It was that perspective of the feeling that got me into that boat. But it's exciting to be able to have opportunities even to jump in, and having such a frequent opportunity. Like, that's really how I saw the podcast, especially early on, was just a frequent opportunity for myself to do something that I was very, you know, hesitant about doing, still nervous about doing, about jumping into. And just the more, it's not even about getting better at stuff. It's just about doing it more and more and more, and being willing to jump in more and more and more. That helps so much with just the ability to relax in a situation, because that's pretty much what it comes down to. And everything stems from that in a lot of ways, is just how relaxed we can be in the face of that shift or change or discomfort or tension. So, and that's what leads to the empowerment. And sometimes, you know, being high can help amplify the discomfort in certain ways. And then it's like, all right, I'm doing even more work, because now I'm in an uncomfortable spot and I'm super high while I'm doing it. So I'm doubling down on that.
That's awesome. That's, you know, it takes away the barrier. It takes away that layer of craziness that we carry around with us every day. We carry around the traffic, our bosses, we carry around the laws, or our discomfort. We carry around so much weight that we can't find our power. We can't find our strength. And so cannabis helps take away one of those layers, 2 of those layers, 3 of those layers, so that we can breathe. And that's where I look at, my first understanding of medical cannabis was more how we're using it, how we're microdosing, how we're regimenting, but how we're using it and how it changes our lives directly with dealing with people. Look, I'm loud. I'm social clown sometimes. And it's not always cannabis that I can blame for being the reason of that. But I wasn't always like this. And I needed cannabis to soften the blow of an emotional discomfort, soften the blow of getting let go, or soften the blow of the passing of someone, for me to be able to assimilate that easier without the stresses adding to it. So I'm excited about the journey you're going to be taking with us. And I'm excited about your personal empowerment, you know, and also the empowerment of Ray and Andrew. Yes, I said it. Look, and There's going to be a little bit of positivity mixed in there. Look, Ray's not big on positivity. And the thing is, he doesn't like the word. And I told Julia, we're going to talk about this. I want to talk about it because, you know, I feel something for positivity. Sometimes we need the extra positivity, the extra oomph of that. Sometimes it being false, I understand. And not necessarily, we got to fake it till you make it. Look, I wasn't always positive. When I explained to Julia how I changed and became more empowered, how I found the power within me, I used to go to the mirror and do daily affirmations. And I want to say it was after a movie I saw, and I don't want to tell you which one because it was really corny. And then I'm admitting I saw the movie, but it was really corny. And it was something about affirmations. And this guy did affirmations to make himself feel better and understand his power. So I started doing them, and I didn't believe it. I was in front of the mirror. You're amazing. You're fantastic. You're going to conquer the world. Just go do it. Go. Conquer the world. And I'd get out there and be like, huh. The vibe is a little different. The frequency is a little different. I feel it may be just a hair better. And in that, I was putting out in the universe what I wanted back. I wanted better. I wanted my vibe to shine. And in that, every day, I got to the mirror. I was like, you are highly intelligent. You are amazing. And today is your day of days. And then I walk away from that mirror. Then I come back and I'm like, no, you know you're the coolest. And then you walk away again. My empowerment came from false positivity. I had to fake it till I made it. I used to be depressed. I mean, depression is something you fight every day, but I used to be deeply depressed, down, lethargic, a downer. Look, I would be a negative Nelly everywhere I went. But now I'm the positive one. And no matter how bad the outcome is, I empower myself to be more positive. So that's where I'm throwing it in on today's episode.
And when we were talking, actually, he did previously mention this to me, and I kind of said, going off of the podcast and kind of you guys' perspective a little bit more, I feel like it comes down to where we put our attention and our focus, because like Oran had also shared some more personal things with me, and that how, like you just mentioned, in the depths of difficult situation, you kind of, I feel like it's more about your outlook, because if you just sit there and you stare at the darkness, and that doesn't lead you anywhere. So I think the way, like the affirmations, like it's more of an encouragement in a way, as much as like you could consider it positive. It's just something to get you up and doing things right and focusing on carrying on instead of just thinking of all of the thoughts surrounding the negative things in life.
Well, I do quickly want to say, you change the way your brain thinks and the world changes around you. Mm. When you think on a negative side, you push yourself to a negative side. That's why when it comes to positivity, it's more than just the word. It's more than faking it sometimes. You know, now I believe it so much, it is empowerment. You know, maybe the word needs to change. Maybe the world needs to change, you know, but we need to inject good vibes and frequency everywhere. And so I was just saying, you change the way your mind sees it, the world is going to change around you.
Dan, I see your point, and I've heard it many times. It's a point that I've made previously, but it comes down to, I think, the fact that what really made the change was you going out and doing it. So you going out and seeing over and over again that you could do it. Talking to yourself in the mirror might have, you know, given you a bit of confidence to go out and do it, but it also took a lot of time. Not only does it take a lot of time, but it also starts to build a dependency. So I'll be honest with you. When I first met you, Oran, you had worked for another company, and you were extremely positive about that company, overly positive about that company, because that's how you tend to look at the world, is that you put a nice shiny finish on it, and it allows you to go forward with all this energy. And that's why you had such a disappointment when that company disappointed you. You know, that's why there was such a drop underneath, is because you were building it up so that way that you could cope with it, so that way you could see it in the way that you needed to see it to create your life. But what you ended up doing was creating a giant fucking hole underneath you, right? Whereas you can continue to have that energy without necessarily holding on to that false positivity. You can continue to have that strength and that empowerment without needing to wear rose-colored glasses, because there's a cost to it. The cost is the frustration and the disappointment. The cost is the expectation. You don't need it.
You're right, though. It does create a massive hole. So as a salesman, I have to create a sense of positivity around the people, around the product, around the process, because people don't care, and they need to. Again, they need to care about who's making what you're smoking, because it changes what you're smoking. It changes it in the fact that if there's love being put into it, then there's love when you're smoking it. There's love in the entourage. It all matters. It all makes sense in the long run. So the positivity that I bring to a company when something like that happens and blindsides me and rips my heart out, it's all for a reason, though. It's all for a reason. Always for a reason, guys and gals. And you're right, it makes a hole.
But without it,
also,
we wouldn't
right,
be having this conversation.
My strength, my personal inside lion pulled me back up again. And my sometimes false sense of positivity reminded me how bright and shiny the world still is. No pun intended, rather bright and shiny. So
I find that fascinating. I'm going to pass to Andrew in just 1 second, but I want to just throw this out there because often we think that it's the act of these affirmations, that it's the act of going to the mirror and trying to boost ourselves up that's actually changing our life. And I always think it's funny because those are expressions of our priorities already shifting underneath. Right? It's not that those tools are doing the work. We're doing the work through the tools. It's just the attachment to the tools that's the danger, right? It's the attachment to being positive when realistic, right? Realistic with you being empowered is so much better than positivity, because then it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. Those aren't even considerations. There's your ability to adapt. There's your ability to make the most of it. That, see, to me, it's about getting past the concept of positive and negative and looking at what we really mean. When we mean positive, what do we mean? Does it mean happy? Happy all the time? No, not at all. That's fucking exhausting. What it does mean is capable. What it does mean is being yourself, authentic, right? Being able to throw yourself in and see what the fuck happens. Knowing you can do that is about as positive as it can be. Now I'll shut up and pass it to Andrew.
Yeah, and I would say, yeah, I guess similarly, not so much positivity, but more so enthusiasm. And I think, Oran, maybe in your situation, there's so obviously you have so much enthusiasm just for life and cannabis in general. And that was, within the realm of a certain type of situation that then I think carried over possibly into, the company, thoughts about things. And then there is a slight masking on top of that when it's thought of instead of just, your own enthusiasm and passion. And so then, with the shift, but it's always been just the enthusiasm and passion. And so if there was a, possible dip and then feel like you're bringing yourself up again, it's just the re-recognition of that. Oh yeah, the enthusiasm comes from me. It's coming from me, and it's coming from, my love for this thing and my love for just, life in general. And I think just to add one last thing to the positivity part, it can definitely hinder us from seeing all the aspects of ourself, even too, like when it comes down to being yourself, having enthusiasm and growing, being positive about yourself can be a great way to miss like opportunities for growth or even subtly avoid certain situations because you see yourself in a certain way or even an inability to connect, with and I'm not saying you're throwing out good vibes as in, avoiding negative vibes, but oftentimes people will go to that extreme where it's like, I'm positive. I only want to be around positivity at all times. And sometimes, someone who isn't as high vibe as you think that they could be or should be is really just our own judgments about that person, about ways we would judge ourselves for acting or seeming, despite maybe them having some reasons for doing so. And so there's just a lot of ways that I think people use positivity to avoid either certain insights about themselves, opportunities for growth, or potential ways even that may be the most appropriate response in a situation. That, because I think along with positivity comes the idea of being nice. And sometimes we'll think that that's always the best thing to do. And that isn't always the most appropriate thing to do. And being nice is really just my own avoidance of the discomfort of doing the thing that I see as most appropriate in the situation that may actually be closer to me being myself and have significantly more influence than if I prioritized my own comfort by just, thinking happy or positive thoughts or wanting to be, nice all the time.
I don't think it's necessarily about being nice. Being positive doesn't mean I'm being nice. So I like the enthusiasm comment because you're 100% there. Enthusiasm doesn't necessarily mean, hey, like I'm a carnival hawker. It's enthusiasm is the energy and zest behind life. Look, you can be quiet and skipping along the daisies and counting the butterflies. And it's beautiful, but you can do it at your own speed. That has nothing to do, but you're right, the enthusiasm. And then you said the zest. You're right. I have a new zest for life. I almost tricked myself into it. And that's why I accredit a multitude of things. The positivity helped me. The enthusiasm constantly gets me there. But the empowerment of myself from those two things. So it's just how I get there. And that's why I think this is great that we are high and empowered. We are high and empowered to make choices. We are high and empowered to change the world. And that's where we get to Julia, because Julia does have some public speaking. I don't mean to be throwing it out there. I'm throwing it out there, but I'm not throwing it out there. Public speaking qualms. And I'm so excited that maybe let's talk about that. Let's talk about the public speaking. Let's talk about how we can conquer, through our dualistic nature. You could be two different people. And this is where it's the yin and yang of life, dualism. And I'm sure, Ray, you may have a lot to say about that, which I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more about you guys and the journey that I'd love Julia to go on. I'm going to go on a journey here. I'm going to go on a journey to learn to look deeper in myself and beyond just, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know. And that's what's great about this. I need empowerment as well. You need empowerment. We all need empowerment. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay.
But, going back to the public speaking comment, what I was explaining before when we had a one-on-one, me and Oran, was that I have in my program, which is advertising and marketing, I've been doing more public speaking, which has kind of pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And going back to something Andrew was bringing up earlier, I feel like it's once you realize that you can kind of sit in the discomfort, you don't have to escape it. That can be really helpful to understand, just because what you resist persists, something he brings up quite often. And that can be good to remember for sure, just because it can get you out of it. The only way out is through is another expression that I find is helpful, because you really have to go through the suffering, or just accept it, because what you accept, the acceptance of a negative experience is a positive experience. And I don't know the opposite of that, but I think it's a quote that I had heard before. Do you recognize what I'm saying, Andrew? Maybe.
Yep. The acceptance of a negative experience is a positive experience, and
then there's an opposite to it.
Yeah, that's actually great. I'm kind of blanking on the opposite of that right now too, and I'm like, people will figure it out. They'll figure it out, or they can look it up, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the end of it. We don't have to do all the heavy work for them,
Another thought that I had though was vulnerability, because when Oran, he seems to put he puts his heart into things, right? That's another part of like the positivity and the he was all in for that company, right, that you brought up, right? Definitely being vulnerable and really enthusiastic about what he's doing, but then that can definitely come with the disappointment. And you guys have brought up the example of when you hold on to something, or maybe you're really grateful for something, but then it's kind of like it can be like a chair getting pulled out from you, just because you have that and you're grateful for it, but then what if it's gone? If it disappears, does that mean that you're not happy anymore, and you're not you wouldn't accept life without it?
Yeah, great question.
It is. I like that. I like that comment you made a second ago, though. where you almost have to go through it to make it a positive. You have to go through it, almost enjoy that. Like I was a comedian. At least I thought it was funny. But on stage, when you bomb, wow, it's an emotional experience. And then one day it happened to me. It just, it wasn't so bad. And I bombed really bad. I mean, there was like, you suck. I'm like, I do. You are smart. And I just kind of walked off the stage, scratching my head going, that didn't really bother me so much. I got through that. So I don't know why, but I like that. So I want to definitely, Andrew, if you can remember that quote or that conversation, I would love to throw the QR code, like a little QR code up here and a link back to y'all's conversation about that, because there's something I love about that. And even
Oh yeah, we'll find it at some point, or maybe someone in the chat or something. But yeah, it's we'll throw it on. But yeah, Julia, and I wanted to because I totally resonate with like hesitation, especially when it comes to speaking type things. Like it's been a journey for me, even just to start talking more and like sharing my perspective and like being myself in that. And what I've noticed is like for a while I tried to like look up things to get better at stuff, look up ways to improve certain things. And I'm starting to realize more and more that it's not really about changing into something or someone else. Like it's really through the relaxation of just like coming to terms with being myself, and like not necessarily it's like I've improved at things through certainly not trying to improve, but just relaxing and doing it over and over and continuing to jump in and continuing to move. But a lot of people will push this sort of notion of like ways to get better at something, and so much of it just comes down to genuine time and attention, and relaxation can help sort of push that more. But like even through improving, like we'll maintain this assumption that we should be someone else, that right now isn't enough. Like I got to do this to get to this other point or place. But like all the assumptions that I have about myself right now are all relative to some made up fucking bar that I'm holding myself to. And so like as that drops, I'm like, okay, I'm actually good right now. And then from that relaxation, it's like all the shit starts, being expressed more. Like myself being expressed more is through relaxation. It's like the Chinese finger puzzle. It's like I spent so long trying to fight my way from it. And like that was so much of the tension. And as the relaxation sets in, it's like it's more easy for the shifts to continue to play out. It's like the relaxation continues to allow the floodgates to stay open. And it's going to be uncomfortable, certainly, but as you find those discomforts, relaxing in the face of them, as opposed to typically, historically, at least for me, always tensed up in response to them, is basically always the way through, and just continuing to jump in, which taking those opportunities is important.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Just jump in, which is again why I'm so inspired by where you are right now, today, doing this. Just a week into it, you're like, fuck it, let's do a podcast. And it's because there is no right way to podcast. There's no right way to perform. There's no right way to be you. There's no right way to do any of this. I mean, even if you were to go into advertising and marketing, for example, there's no right way to be an advertiser and a marketer. That's why advertising and marketing is always changing. At one point, somebody who knew how to market is now being left behind because they're marketing in an old style that doesn't work anymore according to the new mentality. And so we're always outliers when we're willing to be ourselves, because we're breaking away from the common mentality. The common mentality is, people are judging me if I'm talking. The alternative is, I'm talking for me. These are an opportunity for you, for Oran, for me, for Andrew, to actually just have a conversation and grow. And what I love about it is because we don't take the perspective of being performers. We don't take the perspective of, the audience is listening, because that takes away from the point. we take the perspective of, well, we're going to be having this conversation with ourselves regardless. So we may as well have it with other people going through the same shit, having the same conversation. And anybody who wants to listen is getting what they can out of it. They're not even hearing us necessarily. They're hearing what they want to hear, what they're ready to hear. Right. And they're blocking out everything that they're not ready to hear, which is just fine, because at least they're sticking through the conversation, which is what we're doing. That's all this is. It's like a marathon, but it's a lifelong marathon of just sticking it out, right? And seeing what you're capable of each and every time. This is why recently I took a trip to Paris, first time in Europe, and I went to the Louvre, and I was looking at all of these sculptures, and I was sitting in awe at the fact that these are all made by hand, and that it would take such painstaking patience to just chisel away chip by chip over years, because you see the finished product in your head, but you're nowhere close. If you were to try and rush it, it wouldn't happen, right? It would break. You'd have to start all over again, right? And so we have to walk at our own pace through everything. And that's how we make our life our work of art. So I think it's fantastic that we're all here and that we're doing this. I wanted to go back quickly, if y'all don't mind, to the positivity thing. And the reason is because, again, I want to ask you a question. How often do you deliberately look at the negative? And do you see any value in doing so?
Wow, you dropped the flavor bomb. like he had that card, and he was like, "You ready for this one? Just gonna pull it out real slow. I'm gonna talk about something else." And then here it comes, coming. By the way, I want to go back over here to positivity. Okay. So, Julia, do you want to take that first? Or
Sure.
I love it.
I would say that it's probably quite often that we look at the negatives, and myself as well, especially like overthinkers. You think of all the things that could happen, and usually what we do is we try to plan for the bad stuff because that's harder to deal with. So we try to think of all of the negative outcomes instead of thinking all of the great things that could happen and then how we would deal with that when that happens, because that's easier to deal with because there's not as many consequences to the negative, or not as many consequences when you're dealing with positive things, or like things that you have to really navigate. As like, you do have to navigate things when things are going well, but obviously you have to do a little bit more critical thinking or thinking on the spot when things are deep in the shit, basically. But yeah, I would say I think about the negative quite a lot when I'm overthinking, but that's a habit I've been trying to dim down, because the thoughts are there, but we don't always have to give our attention to each and every one of them, because sometimes our thoughts, some of them aren't even really ours because they're from what other people have said in the past. So it's coming down to, again, what you focus on. And we do focus a lot on the negative. But with that being said, Ray, since we focus so much on the negative, I feel like I'm curious to see what Oran has to say, because since he approaches it from a more positive perspective, it may be a little bit different. We'll just see what you have to say. Yeah.
First off, you're awesome. You're awesome. I threw you the ball right off the bat, and you were like, "Got it. Let's go." So that's awesome. You're awesome. You did a fantastic. Already first podcast in, and there's already an energetic frequency change out of you. There's a different vibe about you already 30 minutes in. I am so excited now because, wow, the universe is ahead of us and ahead of all of us, because so positivity, and why I want to get back to that, or I'm glad you got back to it. What a deep question. How do I look at the negative?
How often do you deliberately look at the negative? And do you see any value
Every
in
day.
doing so?
Every single day. I have to keep my eyes open to it, my heart open to it, my mind open to it, because that's what's going on in the world around us. That's the energy that's coming at us, but not the energy that I am pushing back. I am pushing back something so powerful, so amazing. We all are. And when we do it together, we're changing the world. And I say that because we're changing it here. And when you change the world here, You change the world everywhere. Yes, I see the negative. Yes, it hurts me. It hurts. What's going on to our fellow humans? It hurts so bad. I see it every day and I want to cry. And then I remember, if I cry, she's going to cry. If I cry, they cry. And that's just more negative, more sorrow, instead of pushing back something so different, pushing back the positive, pushing back the empowerment. So it's positive empowerment, high positive empowerment. It's a lot of things, because positivity is what I use to be able to see the world better, see the world different. When my mom passed, I couldn't see the world in good ways. I just saw it down, and it carried me on a downward spiral until I started to see things better. And that better brought me to a better place. And that's why I see positivity playing its role in empowerment. Yes, sometimes it's false, but it's not all false. And sometimes it may start off a little falsy, but by the end of the day, you're feeling it. And you're like, you know something? I'm positive. I feel good. And that's where I apply that to my job. And you're right. When I applied that to my job, it took me down a rabbit hole, because there was a void that was ripped out. And now I'm like, who am I? What am I doing? So I'm cannabis education. I teach not just about the cannabinoids and how they beautifully work and combine into our body, but how about the combination? And earlier you were like mental illness, mental stability. Look, cannabis is a buffer. It helps play that buffer zone. And because of that buffer zone, I use that to be highly empowered. And that's my high empowerment. My empowerment is not just cannabis, but the positivity, the energy, the everything. So yes, I look at the negative every day. I have to, because that's where you fight depression. If you're a depressed person, you're depressed every day, no matter what. It's a battle you fight every day. Every day. So I have to look at it. I have to face it. Okay.
I got another bomb for you then, because Oran, listening to you, I got to say, you don't sound like a positive person. What you sound is like an aware person. You sound like a person who's aware of all the negatives, and then went out of your way to balance out the fact that there are positives as well. It's not that you're tuning out the negative. So I wouldn't say that you're a positive person, but that you are looking at both sides. And if you were to look at both sides in a way where they are the same picture, then you'd realize that all of that quote unquote negativity is what drives you towards being who you are and giving a shit as much as you do, which means it's not necessarily a negative if it's just a process of change. And so I wouldn't say that you're a positive person. I would say you're an empowered person. I would say that you're a high person. I would say that that comes through being aware of both sides. But I think that what drags us down is the judgment of those sides, is the looking at what's happening in the world right now and thinking that this shouldn't be happening, because if it wasn't happening, this wouldn't be happening. This conversation wouldn't be happening. And life is transition. We are the swing of the pendulum, right? So we go one way, we go another way. At one point, we thought agriculture was a hugely positive thing, until all of a sudden it led to a population boom that led to warfare, that led to the culture that we have right now. Right. And because it was control. And so control swings back and forth, back and forth. And that's what this is. And I think that this being the high and empowered podcast, it's really important to recognize that I wouldn't say that you're a positive person. I would say that you like to put a positive spin on things, but it's because you're aware of the negative. I would say that the positivity that you like to bring to the table is you. It's not necessarily the world is a wonderful place. We all just got to look at it's fucking it's amazing, because you can recognize that it's also a ball of burning shit, right? So it's not necessarily what the world is. It's what I am now. It's the ripple I'm making now. It's what I transmute with what's brought to me, which means it's not a negative. It's what I do with it. So I would say again that you are not a positive person. You go far beyond that. I think we all do. That's the point.
Well, and it goes back to what Andrew said. It's enthusiasm, and the enthusiasm that's brought to a situation, that it translates to many things. It transmutes as many different things. And so I'm already excited that And I do like, by the way, how you mention how, there's a difference. And you're right. I'm not necessarily a positive person. I mean, not especially first thing in the morning. I'm not the most positive person. I have a tiki-taki, and on my tiki-taki lately, I've been getting on the TikTok, and in the morning, it's been cold. And because it's been cold, again, not the most positive, but I'm looking at that situation with a positive spin. So I do like the positive spin man of empowerment. But if that is going to help Julia on her journey and help all of the people watching on their journey to face crowds, face bosses, talk to their HR, sell their, sell their product and be confident in who they are. Empowerment, to empower you to be the best that you can be. Empowerment, so that you may achieve, so you may educate yourself, so you may network, so you may be somebody in a difficult society that is sometimes hard to live in. Sometimes many difficult situations get in your way, but you can push them aside because you're strong. You're strong inside. Yes, it's hard and life is hard. And look, I'm a perfect example. My life is psychotic. I'm chased by animals just to get here to my studio bomb shelter, which I'll explain where I am if you like to know. It's a project. It's the only place I have on 7 acres where I can not only hide, but I could get some free time. No, it's my little bunker. And in that, oh, is that my TikTok? Oh, that's a lot of fun. Oh, that's fun. So if you want to see the tiki-taki that I have out there, that's my tiki-taki. And I don't even know what I do. I just do. And lately I've gotten back on there. So I'm back on there posting things again. I mean, I have other things posted. They keep banning me every time I put everything. I had a cannabis rap song that I put out there. Look, we'll do it sometime. It's an awesome cannabis rap song. I've got like a couple of them. One, I think like I sound like I'm Dr. Seuss. Anyways, we'll talk about that another time. Thank you for putting that out there. That's awesome. I'll have to go back and look at my tiki-taki. I'm going to start doing morning inspirationals, maybe something. I don't know, maybe like affirmations. I posted one on LinkedIn before we started, just to kind of get the vibes out there in the right direction.
Well, I look forward to seeing that content for sure. And I just want to mention that, of course, the community who's listening to this, everybody on Dualistic Unity, go and check out Oran's content. Leave some comments to these videos, because again, we're informed by the community. That's very much what this is a part of. Is it's not just our conversation here that's leading to our growth. It's your conversation with us that's leading to our growth. And so we really appreciate your feedback, your thoughts. Join us on a Patreon call. Join us on our Discord. Let us know what you think. We're going to create a new channel on our Discord at some point. I will talk to Jazz, our Discord god, as it were, about creating a channel specifically for High and Empowered. So that way, if you have questions for Oran or Julia, or if you have suggestions, if you have comments, you just want to throw up a picture of the giant fucking doobie that you rolled, then you can do so on our community Discord, and they'll be able to check that out, because this is what this is about. Collaboration. We are high and empowered together. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're not high and you don't have a good reason to not be high, I recommend you get high.
You speak a lot of sense there. A lot of sense.
But I think, and just to add my last thoughts on the positivity, I think the conversation that we're having and the discussion that we're having, as we've pointed to, it's not even in the realm of positivity or negativity, and it really just comes down to being yourself. And like Oran, sharing on your TikToks, like, you don't know what you're doing, singing songs, whatever. It's just like there's almost a freedom in the relaxation of just being yourself, and then you're sharing things. And so, like, sharing a random video or saying something, what you're saying is not necessarily even positive or negative. And I think Ray, at some point, you said something along the lines of like, sometimes being positive is just being negative about being negative. And there's a certain perspective of reality that you almost glaze over or don't want to see when there is the focus on the positivity. So I don't think even anything that this conversation is about, and Oren, like, absolutely fucking love your energy, and I don't think any of it has to do with positivity. I think it's just you have gotten to a point where you're good with being yourself, and you're good with expressing it, and you're good with being high as you're doing it. And and that, more than any sort of positivity or affirmation or pat on the back you could give someone, is more infectious than any of those things combined. And that's really what all any of this worldly change comes down to. Isn't so much about coming up with an idea of, no, we're creating positive change, and I'm going to think about this in this way. And really, I'm just like judging things from a certain perspective. Like, there's a lot of judgment involved in trying to maintain a positive and a negative perspective, what's positive and what's negative. And it more so is just, I'm willing to be myself, whatever that means in this moment, whatever's going to, be said, whatever's going to be done, whatever I'm going to express. Not so much about trying to build up this character that gets better and is better at all of these things, but it's just a willingness to be yourself, and whatever that means moment to moment, that has more impact than you probably ever realize.
Very, very true. You're right. No, please.
A few final thoughts on the positivity as well. Going back to something you mentioned or brought up earlier, Andrew, was the bar. That's something too. The bar that we set for ourselves is kind of like the expectations. And I feel like, I don't know what, another thing that you just said that Ray said earlier was like, sometimes positivity is being negative about negativity in a way. That's like, so it's just not putting as many labels on things and experiences, or trying to put things in a box or define things or be certain about things as well. So that's, I guess, closing on that for what I have to say.
That's awesome. I absolutely agree, which is why I tend to avoid the words positivity and negativity, or positive and negative, or good or bad. And it's just because it's such a gray area. It really just comes down to how limited your perspective of the event really is. This is why one of the first videos I saw of Andrew's that I know went viral is where he was talking about the parable of the farmer in China, who loses his horses, and everybody's like, oh, that's terrible. And he's like, maybe. And then the horses come back with more wild horses, and they're like, oh, that's great. And he's like, yeah, maybe. Right. And then, his son's riding a horse, falls down, breaks his arm, and everybody's like, oh, it's terrible. He's like, yeah, maybe. Next day, they come by to conscript for the army. The son can't be conscripted because he has a broken arm. They're like, that's wonderful. He's like, yeah, maybe. And it's just because it really depends on your perspective. It really depends on what it is you're looking at any given point, that's going to determine whether you see it as negative or positive. And so for me, because I have no way of determining that, I have no way of determining if coming across to somebody as what they see as abrasive is actually a negative or a positive thing. No idea. I cannot know where they're at. Sometimes a kick in the nuts has been the best thing for me, right? Whereas, I would have deemed that to be a negative experience at the time, but I grew from it. And so instead of negative and positive, I'll acknowledge constructive and destructive. But more importantly, I look at authentic versus false, right? Because authenticity, that's a measure. We can measure in terms of, are we being authentic or not? And in that way, we know how much quality each ripple makes, because we're involved with it. We're not trying to assume what it should be. We are actually being it with the best of our ability and all of our awareness. And we would deem that to be a positive experience. But that depends on who's talking to you, right? Because if you're being honest in your truth, with your courage, just being authentically you, and somebody comes up to you and feeds you a line of bullshit and you call them out on it, they're not going to see that as positive. You're not going to be liked for it. Does that make it negative? Does that make you negative?
Authenticity, it takes empowerment, positive outlook empowerment, not positivity, but positively charged empowerment to find your authenticity. We don't know who we are. And I don't know. We know who we are. And but we haven't found ourselves. And when you talk about authenticity, yes, that's when we find ourselves. That's when we're there. We're authentic. We know who we are. We know the direction we want to go. And that could be like 1,000 directions, but we know. And we're powerful within that journey. We are so positively charged empowerment. No, there's no negatively charged empowerment. We're not negatively going anywhere. We're just staying in the positive realm of a positive and negative universe, in the dualistic nature of how things can go. I love the story of maybe. So you're right. It's, don't get too excited, and everything will just kind of happen on this plane of existence, and everything's going to be okay. And even when it's pretty bad, you're like, yeah, maybe. So it's how you look at it. You change it up here and it changes all around you. So I love how we've been able to look at this and agree and disagree, and look at this and find how this empowers us to be the amazing individuals that we are. Sorry, I just had a pipe roll right off the table. So anyways, I heard a, what is that? And there it went. So I brought back up though. I've got another one. Okay, so in that, I love the conversation that we all bring to the table. I love the energy that this has been creating, the tornado. I can feel it already. This is going to be something special. I want you guys on the show again, by the way. I mean, just mentioning it now. Anytime you guys want to be the guys, dualistic unity, you guys are invited. You are part of it, intertwined. I love that. Fantasticness. That's just okay.
Well, I, for one, look forward to coming back and mincing words with you, because that's all we're really doing. As much as we're having the same conversation, we're just using words differently, because there are words that I tend to gravitate away from just because of the danger. It's just the danger, right? Like the whole thing about being positive. The only reason I shy away from that is because there's weight to it. All of a sudden, one day when you're feeling negative, you're like, oh, I got to put on a show. I should be acting this way. I should be more positive. When the most positive thing you can do is accept how you feel and sit it out, right? And that doesn't necessarily feel positive. And so that's the only reason I go towards authenticity, being yourself, is because being yourself isn't something you can think about. There's no weight. There's no weight. It's all faith. And in that faith, you see what you're capable of. And that's when you feel super positive. But in trying to be positive, I think we have the concept of positivity rather than the reality of positivity, which is only found in stepping forward, in moving forward, and realizing that we can continue to do so. But I've had a blast on here. I'm really looking forward to coming back and shooting the shit with you and Julia. Absolutely. I do want to mention, of course, that you will have some other guests very shortly, in that we have two other hosts on Dualistic Unity, Jackie and Amanda. And I know they are just fucking raring to get high and have a conversation with the both of you.
Oh yeah. And that's the beauty of coming together and having conversation too, right? Is that everyone has something to share, and then it really brings up how important it is just to, continue to jump into stuff, and you never really know what you are capable of until you jump, until you get in there and then share some things. Because I maintained for a long time in my life that I had nothing to share, nothing to add, nothing to say, and it's still down there in moments of those lower moments, or even just in moment. Honestly, it's not even low moments. It's in moments of change, in moments of shifts and whatnot. A lot of times as I'm, start to relax a little bit more, I start to realize, there were reasons I was tensing up. There were certain things I was not looking at, avoiding. And I found even, because I've had throughout my life ups and downs of thinking of myself more positively and thinking of myself more negatively. And I got to admit, when I thought of myself more in moments, especially long periods of time where I thought of myself more positively, I did way more damage like on things. There was not sensitivity oftentimes that goes with, or as much sensitivity that goes with thinking of yourself positively, and even hyping yourself up for a situation. It's a trade-off to the sensitivity of the situation, because immediately I'm thinking there's a way for this to go, and I know that, instead of being the expression of finding out in the moment. But that almost takes a little bit more faith in yourself than, the buildup and the good feelings. And like, maybe you feel a little bit better, but are you as sensitive? Are you as authentic? Are you as involved in the situation? And if life is about living life, then involvement in the situation is the most important thing I could possibly think of. And then there's no weight in that either, because there isn't that bar, as you mentioned earlier, Julia.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just see the whole of things wherever possible and not focus on somewhere too specific, because that's kind of when stagnation can happen too. If you're just honed in on one thing, you kind of discount the other potentials. Like just being solely positive, like kind of that toxic positivity idea kind of comes in when we're being negative about the negative sometimes, and not just allowing emotions to be what they are, or everything to be what it is, regardless of what we're going through.
Look, you're awesome. You're awesome. See, you're doing fantastic. I love this. It's authenticity. It's charged. Beautiful vibe. Authenticity. Look, I when I say I'm a salesman, in life, we sell. Whether I'm selling education, but I believe education is the greatest thing to sell in the world, no matter where it comes from, because that's how you empower yourself. You empower yourself through education. And the more you learn, the more you know, the more empowered you are and prepared in a world that needs that kind of thought, that kind of charge, empowerment. And that's look, it's the authenticity. And Andrew, Ray, thank you. Just want to say that. I love the way you guys are looking at things. I love this journey of Julia. And I'm jumping on the bandwagon of a journey as well, because I want to find the more authentic me. I mean, I think I already know who I am, but even in knowing who you are, it is great to go on journeys. I love them. I love exploring deep within me to find out more about me.
And who we are is always changing too, right?
Well, and I do want to mention, Andrew, you were saying something about the lows and the highs. And in this positive affirmation, I just want to give you one. In the highs and lows, I find strength, resilience within myself. So sometimes you got to say it. Sometimes in the highs and the lows, I find strength and resilience within myself. So you're right. In the highs and the lows, I have to find the power within me, the empowerment I want to give to others and bring to others. Look, I bring it through enthusiasm then. I'm bringing it with my enthusiasm, my excitement, because I'm excited. If I'm not excited, you can tell I'm not that excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. So in that excitement, I'm excited you guys are here. I'm excited Julia's taking this journey. And I want to hear more. Can you tell us more about Dualistic Unity and the podcast and what people can expect from hearing your show as well? I mean, like a synopsis, or wait, we still have time, right?
Oh, yeah.
We have as much time as we want, right?
It's up to you. That said, I do want to bring up one
with
thing.
you guys. I don't want to, I'm not rushing you. I'm just
fair. Dualistic unity is really just the recognition that everything's connected, that we are all one, that we are all one energetic force moving around, fluctuating in different variations, and that even though we get caught up in the perception that we're separate, we never actually are. And so that recognition of unity, that reality that we are all connected, that we are all in fact the same intelligence, that we are all like cells within our body. We all have different perspectives of what our function is, but we're the same body. We're the same awareness expressed in infinite different forms, all within ourselves. And so that said, that is God. We are God. And when we get out of the way and stop separating ourselves with this idea of the little me who's in control, who can lose control, who must take ownership of everything and establish value and all that stuff, We are God in motion. We are enthusiasm in motion. And I want to point this out because we've been using the word enthusiasm quite a bit. The etymology of enthusiasm is to be possessed by God. It's to actually just have yourself in you, to be possessed with yourself, which is why children are so goddamn enthusiastic. They're living for them, right? And we'd say, well, those kids are really positive, but that's not how they look at it. You know, they look at it as just being fully involved and alive. You know, and that's what dualistic unity is to recognize that we all have that capacity. It's never went away. It's just that we got caught up in an illusion that we are separate. We got caught up in the idea of me instead of just being me. And I would say that's dualistic unity in a nutshell, is being yourself. And before I pass it to Andrew, because I'm curious to see what his answer is, I just wanted to say that I'm excited by the fact that you, Oran, and you, Julia, are a part of dualistic unity. And it's because of who you are as people. As Julia said, we're always changing. And so whoever we might think we are is always a product of the past. We can't think about who we are right now. We can just feel it. We can just move forward and allow it to change. And so I'm very excited to see how that change happens as you continue down this path, as you continue to be involved with the community, as eventually we come out and see you and hang with you and get fucking high with you in person. It's going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to this relationship, not just with you, but with the audience, the community, and everybody that we can bring into the fold. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just want to reiterate how appreciative I am of being able to be involved in this inaugural episode of High and Empowered. I'm very, very excited to see where the discussion goes and how much you guys are able to get into and dig into and shift and grow and change with all the conversation. But yeah, Ray, that was very well said. I don't really have too much to add to it, but I think when it does, because for me, for a while, I really enjoyed the conversation of it and what it means in the sense of, like, you know, the cerebral, the talking about interconnectivity and all of that. But it sort of allowed me to avoid just relaxing in the sense, because as you relax, a lot of that, the perspectives of yourself or the ways that you're seeing the world that you don't even necessarily realize, because it's more than just how you think about things, it's how you act as well, and the things that you do and the priorities and the things that you focus on. And so for me, more recently, it's very much shifted to that, just being myself and the willingness to relax in the face of certain situations that maybe previously I had tensed, and just see what happens and be willing to find out and be willing to let go of all of the judgments that I've built up about myself over the years. Because as much as I've, you know, pinned it as, you know, others' judgments, it's really I've been judgmental of myself throughout, but I've never actually been able to be certain of any of it. And so I take this sort of glazed over perspective veil to reality of assumptions about how I'm doing, despite never really being able to know. And it's in that face of uncertainty and that realization, like, oh, maybe I can't really know anything for sure, that includes my perspective of myself. And if I'm willing to just continue to jump in, then there isn't so much that sticks along the way. And as uncomfortable as it is to continue to jump into certain things, especially previously where maybe something did hit a nerve or something, or became a more solidified, you know, perspective of myself, that then I counteracted with a more positive perspective of myself over the years, but realizing that was just a sort of layer on top of the existing layer instead of a peeling back of the existing layer, and realizing that the freedom isn't found through how you're seen or how you're viewed, but it's right now. What is my experience right now? Am I relaxed or am I tense? And if I'm tense, what am I holding on to? Because it's probably something, because to hold on, you know, you gotta tense up a bit, let go, you relax, and it's inevitable. And so how far does that relaxation go? And along the way, it's seeing why maybe you didn't relax so much previously, but just continuing to be able to, and know that with that change and the shifts, the inevitable changes and shifts, it's going to keep changing and shifting, and you're going to keep changing and shifting and realizing new perspectives. And the more you jump in, the more the more you change. And I saw something, a quote that resonated a lot recently. It was from some old philosopher, but it was something along the lines of, if you never want to be criticized in life, do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. And that was my motto. That's been my motto for a lot of my life, is to avoid that. And so realizing that even in doing that, there's still going to be the judgment and the criticism. There isn't so much of a reason anymore to not just continue to jump in and find out and, fucking live life. So that's my little additional spiel right there.
That's great. I think that's a great representation of what you guys talk about on the podcast more in depth. So yeah, if anybody's interested, definitely go check out the podcast, because they have lots of content, lots of hours for sure. It'll take you a while to get to the current videos just because they keep pumping stuff out. But yeah, definitely worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, look, click on the link if you haven't been to it yet. It's right there. I love how that happens. It's just magic. Magic. I'm telling you, it just happens. Right? It was just, and then poof. It's like, you want to see a trick? I'm gonna make that thing on the screen just disappear. Oh, it's already gone. See? Beautiful trick. So in that, you're right. I think there is a delay on my side. And but we're gonna call it the fun delay. It's the fun delay, because I need a quick delay. I think I need like in life, I need, like, what is that? It's like when you're on broadcast media and they don't want you to use profanity, they have like a profanity buffer. And I just need that. I just need like a person to follow me around. And because it's not like I curse like a sailor. I used to, but I have a lot of kids. And when you have a lot of kids, you just learn you don't use profanity, even though I still do. So I kind of need somebody who's like, thank you so much. Just let's bring that back. And okay. I think the way you guys look at dualistic unity, though, you both have this, you're both almost on a journey. Like when you run, Andrew, you lose a few barriers and you're able to see yourself without everything else tailing you. You're running. You're kind of just throwing it off as you're there. Your energy is, but you're thinking about things. You're talking about things. You're in the moment, and you're happier. Like there's a spot. I mean, even it could be the gummies. Gummy. I mean, I don't run. Look, I'll take some gummies. I'll take a lot. I mean, I'm ridiculous. And I'll run. I'll try to run to my mailbox, which is like maybe like a quarter mile away. I'm tired thinking about it right now. I'm going to run to my mailbox. I might have to do a video of me running that. No, then the dogs would chase me down. The ducks would chase me down. It would be really a crazy scene. So no running. I'm exhausted now. Now I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted thinking about you running. I need to get back in shape. I'm going to need to do some stretches. And I saw you did yoga the other day. See, so Andrew's got his own shtick, and he does a thing where he's doing yoga, he's running, he's taking lots of gummies, he's getting lost, and then he's finding himself. He's getting lost so he can find himself. And I love the journey. Life is a journey. It's not about where we get to, but it's how we get there. It's how we feel getting there. So I love that we are going to learn about dualistic unity. We're going to learn about Julia. You might learn something about me. There's a lot. Even I forget a lot. And then I'll remember it. I'll be like, oh my God, I got something great. So those are going to be some great moments. There's nothing right now. Don't worry. I'll warn you before something's coming. But in that, I want your brains working again. But for you, I want your body working again for you. And if you want to learn how to incorporate cannabis safely, educationally, moderately, do microdosing, learn about regimens. A regimen, like when a doctor gives you a prescription, he says, you take it here, you take it here, you take it here. So let's do cannabis. You take it here, you take it here, you take it here. No, there's more to it. And that's, look, so that's where I think we should be highly empowered. If you need it, good, I'll teach you about it. If you don't need it, then look, I'm high on life. I think, look, today I am high on life, embracing the confidence within me. See, positive, highly empowered, not positive, highly empowered, motivational, daily affirmations. So I'm high on life. I mean, I am both. I'm high on life and high. So together, it's a beautiful high.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I really appreciate you guys having us on today. I'm very excited to see where this conversation heads and goes, and I'm excited to be here for it. And I'm excited to be able to hop into the chat at some points, like we do on Do You Real, and those are always fun on Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Hopping into those comment sections, we always have a lot of fun. I know me and Jazz go back and forth quite a bit on there. So if you're ever interested in having some fun in the comments with us, definitely hop into any of the live streams that we're constantly doing.
Yeah, and one last thing, if I could throw this in, a little bit of shameless self-promotion. We actually have a lot of really exciting stuff happening at Dualistic Unity right now. We're in the middle of writing our book. I can't release the name of the title right now, but people on Patreon are going to find out this week. We also have 2 retreats coming up, one in Virginia Beach, February 1st, one in California near Big Bear Lake on April 11th. Those are fantastic, but I'm going to throw a link up on the screen as well. We now have our own customized GPT. We have created the Dualistic Unity Life Troubleshooter. This is a customized chat GPT where you can go and it is informed by the first 4 seasons of the podcast. So all of the insights, all of the recommendations, all of the perspectives that we've shared are all programmed into this GPT. We have been customizing it. We make sure that it understands the paradox of existence. It understands what we're talking about here. It is there just for you to help simplify whatever the fuck it is you're thinking about down to something that you can just dwell on, think about, get out of the way. Sometimes it helps you find a little bit of clarity. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's available for anybody with a Chat GPT Plus account. It is in the GPT store as of right now. So we're stoked.
Thank you, Andrew and Ray, for both being here on our first episode. We really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to having you in the future, sometimes whenever you're available. And also the guests that you mentioned, Amanda and Jackie, they're great. And I hope to have them on here at some point as well. But yeah, it's been great conversation, and I think we'll have lots more to talk about in future episodes.
Thanks for having us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.